So I'm super psyched. I've got a very strong panel here in the area of social media. A couple of startups that are doing amazing things. One of the most important companies in this space, and also two incredible networks. So it is a cross section. And I think I'm going to start out and let people kind of introduce themselves and just give one or two things about who you are, what you do, and what you are most excited about when it comes to social media and the live TV viewer. Why don't we start with you, Ori?
Okay, so first of all, thanks for coming and listening to us. I know you guys are super busy. I'm Ori Birnbaum, one of the founders of WhipClip. What we do is we allow people to share and discover TV on social media. That's basically it. What I'm most passionate about is helping people not waste time on watching shows they don't like, and help you discover stuff and really spend your time on stuff you like.
I like that. Josh?
Hey guys, my name is Josh. I run the social media department at Fox Sports. That's across digital and broadcast. And we, I guess go backwards a little bit. It was really kind of exciting for me to hear all of the social media conversations happening today in the earlier panels. Being in this for about 10 years now, it's been kind of an interesting progression, and knowing that we are still somewhat in the wild, wild west, where really, at least my job is to focus on coming up with ways to create value with third-party platforms that happen to be called social media. But in a lot of cases, these are video players, video platforms, and the social media function is distribution. So, my job really is to focus on technology, distribution, and the community that we're growing to support our networks.
Andrew?
So I'm Andrew Adashek, head of television for Twitter. Our team deals with networks, production companies, all the key stakeholders in the television process, and helps or works with them to drive innovation and adoption of the platform. And I guess what's most exciting for me is that I've been at Twitter about 4 years, but the social television movement, as if you will, is really just beginning, in the sense of a lot of the tools are being built. If you look around at the group, there's the great people that I see work with these guys all the time, but the tools are there, and now really storytellers are starting to get their hands around new ways of telling the stories and not thinking about this stuff as an afterthought. They're really embracing it from the beginning, and it's opened up a lot of doors. And it's like, when the creative people have the tools, which I'm certainly not one of the creative people, and the things that come out are really amazing. I think the stories are getting more interesting, and there's just a ton of new technology in the future, and I love to see how that stuff's coming together.
I'm Nick Oakley-Tilley. I'm with HLN, who's the sister network of CNN. My background is developing and producing sort of broad entertainment formats and TV shows, but I was brought into HLN and excited to be there because we're really going through a huge transformation there as we try to become the social news network. Everything we do comes from the world of social media. Our mantra is social first in everything that we do, and just excited to be a part of a sort of a big organization that's trying to future-proof itself with the sort of emerging technologies and platforms.
And Jason?
Hi, I'm Jason George. I'm the CEO of a company called Telescope. When Don Mischer talked earlier about those moments in the Oscars award shows when social media traffic spiked and they saw a kind of consequent increase in minute-to-minute ratings, my company really focuses on maximizing the effect of that, both in terms of driving the TV experience, but also driving the experience across digital and social platforms. I'm really excited because I think the fans are starting to take control of that experience more and more. It's clearly no longer just a medium that is, broadcast and passive. And I think there's so many places that can go. The technology is really following, so I think the technology is there. It's really about empowering those fans to kind of drive that experience, and there's no place better for that than live TV.
Great, and I'm Brian Ring, and I've been in the TV space for a long time, and actually started out in interactive TV in like 2000 and 2001, and watched that segment of the industry sort of struggle. But a lot of the use cases are sort of cropping up today, and it's kind of exciting for me. Last month, I saw, and this is a prelude to a question, so it's to sort of agree or disagree. Tim Cook basically, who says, as he's at the digital, I forget exactly which large event he was at, but TV should be interactive. There's much of TV we want to interact with, but the way we do that today, we've got a device in our lap, we're sitting there with the TV on, and we may be doing something on that device socially, but the two things are not connected. And you know, it's funny, for those folks that were involved in Interact TV way back then, I think there is some sense of like, it'll never work. I've had an optimistic view that social and the mobile device itself are sort of a game changer. And so the question is, do you agree with Tim Cook? Is TV something that a lot of people want to interact with? I'll kick it off to you.
Agree? Well,
you could say more or not. We got
Well,
plenty
yeah,
of people on the panel.
It's fine. So we've all been doing that for a long time. I think that actually the only thing that actually really works with TV, I think, you know, the stats of, and Andrew will tell you, stats on Twitter are amazing. I think there's 100 million people kind of tweets every month just on TV, and tons of people are zapping actually to additional shows when they see it on Twitter. But I think that if you're talking about interaction, the only thing that really worked on interaction on TV until now is voting. So if you look at Dancing with the Stars, you look at the X Factor, that is the only interaction until today that has actually worked. And I think for many reasons. I think that people multi-screen while watching on TV because they don't want to interact with TV and they want to do other stuff. At least in my history in video, we've always tried to tackle one specific problem. So my previous company was acquired by Yahoo. It was a company by the name of Bravey. We tackled streaming and buffering. Now we're trying to tackle is discovery. So interaction, I think, is a few years out there, but discovery is a real problem. There's 11,000 shows produced every year in the US only, billions of dollars in production. How do you discover the shows you want to see? That's what we're tackling. So Tim Cook, agree.
Very good. Does anyone want to anyone else want to take a crack at this?
I mean, I think it's a very broad statement. There's lots of different types of content on TV. And some of them, you know, naturally lend themselves to kind of that engagement and second screen, and some of them not so much. You know, personally, I'm not that interested in interacting during a scripted show. I want to sit back and watch that and be kind of led down that path of the narrative. Other things I do, I mean, you know, we obviously do a lot of things like voting. Clearly, that's a place where there's a natural reason, a natural empowerment of the audience to decide who stays and goes. So I think there's different motivations. You know, we talk about things like that. Impacting a show is a big thing, motivates participation. Winning something, getting something exclusively, so I'm getting access to talent because they're streaming on Periscope, you know, right from the locker room. That's kind of exciting to me. You know, VIP experiences where I'm getting something, you know, other people can't get. These are all reasons that drive participation, but they're not necessarily present in every bit of content on TV. Should they be?
I think, you know, one thing that I've found, and I'm sure producers in the audience can relate to this, is that when there's a social media producer coming at you during a broadcast saying, hey, here's this poll, here's this thing, you know, does this make sense? That it almost comes across in some ways as like, this is just another thing I have to do. And one of the things that I've spent a lot of time on working with our producers is how do we build a relationship so that, you know, when we come and pitch an idea to a producer, that it's with the mindset of how do we make TV cooler? How do we make this viewing experience better? And so in regards to that, in terms of being connective on television, I don't think that there's any, you know, I don't think there's any question that social media is connecting users and the viewing experience on TV. It might be detached in terms of what you're watching on one screen versus the other, but I think that they kind of work in harmony. And there can be a lot that's done on a television level on third-party platforms that don't necessarily have to be on TV. That said, it's always great when it happens, but I think just like in any integration, the value really needs to come from the user experience and how useful is it to actually have on TV versus just we're throwing this up here for the sake of social media.
And to add to that, so Twitter wasn't designed as the second screen companion for television, but it sort of became that because Twitter's live, it's public, it's conversational, it's really easy to keep up with with television, and it is sort of that water cooler experience. As I like to say, it's the world's biggest couch. So you're watching together, and you're on Twitter, and you say, "Oh my God, did you see what just happened?" And so whether it's the great sports moment, the red zone, and everybody's talking about it, or if it's a vote. I mean, some things lend themselves to, quote, interactive in this idea of us changing what's happening on television. I mean, we do the voice save on Twitter, which is all powered by tweets. But a lot of television, scripted TV, even award shows. The award shows have some more flexibility, but anything non-live. I mean, what is interactive? So interactive, we're seeing is talking to the talent. You look at what Scandal does on Twitter. You look at what Empire does. You look at what a lot of these shows are doing with Twitter, and you see that interactivity isn't just I'm going to change what happens on the show. As Jason was saying, we go deeper into the show. Our fans get closer to the audience, and what we always say on the TV team is, what I've always talked about is, I don't want to see Twitter on air just for Twitter's sake. That may sound hard to believe for those of you that watch TV, but I want it to tell a better story. I want it to mean something. Otherwise, it doesn't help us, it doesn't help the viewer, and it certainly doesn't help the show. So putting interactive, I think Tim Cook may have some reasonings why he wants to create interactive TV that go beyond just interactive TV. But I feel like when the tools that are out there and the things, the audience, and the way you bring them closer to the story, that is, I would say, I agree with him on that.
Okay, and I'll extend it a bit. So the gentleman this morning talked quite a bit about the transition we're all experiencing in digital, and I think it's somewhat non-controversial to say that we're seeing a decline in the sort of linear live. I'll kind of bunch those together and say there's some secular decline in kind of appointment viewing. And I'm kind of a research nerd. I take a look at all kinds of research that's out there, and I also conduct some of my own research. And I found that right now we ran a poll to try to understand what's the size of the audience that actually has interacted with TV. And I've estimated that to be 77 million. And then Nielsen put out some research a couple of years ago, and what they found is people that interacted with shows on that second screen while they're watching it, they enjoyed TV more. And so the real hardball question is, there was a great article by Farhad Manjoo in the New York Times, and he posed this question: if everybody is going to start interacting with TV, and if people enjoy TV more when they do that, does this power of having the mobile device, connecting with TV, posting, commenting, sharing with others, does that actually have the power to sort of stave that decline? We're going to see, so much more eventization, so much more around these tentpole events that we could actually, in some sense, really transform TV, stem that decline, as they say in live, in linear viewing. That's kind of, I think, a little bit of a hardball question, so I'll leave it to you to kind of comment on it. But how powerful could this be over time? This sort of trend of voting, commenting, playing along.
Look, I think that TV's kind of becoming increasingly bifurcated in terms of the kind of broadcast. It's going to be more and more live, or more and more on demand, and kind of with a little in between. And I think, again, certain types of content lend themselves to different things. I mean, sport. I never want to watch sport on delay. I want to watch it in the moment, and I think that's always been there. You kind of, before you were texting your friends, and now you kind of like on social media with them, you're on Twitter and seeing what they're commenting and kind of responding to that. And I think, we'll actually see some things, move more to live. I think when they figure out how to monetize things like The Voice as one live broadcast rather than replaying it in prime time on the West Coast, then they'll do that, because then we'll be able to do stuff like, the save truly kind of across all time zones and all those sorts of things. So I think you're going to kind of see increasingly bifurcated schedule. I don't think it's going to arrest the decline, because I think it's our human nature is, I want to watch, especially scripted, I'm going to watch that on demand. I'm even going to watch it as a bin. I'm not going to watch it week to week. I'm going to watch it in one long weekend with 10 hours of viewing. So I don't think personally that it will arrest it. I think we'll find different ways of making that content more valuable and more engaging, and obviously figure out ways that we can make money from that engagement.
Yeah, I would support. I mean, what Jason's saying. I think there certainly is. There's an incredible amount of change happening, but I think it's important. When we think about why are we stemming, live, right? So the reasoning. What's the reason? It's the longer term value, and I think sort of what that comes down to is measurement. It's measurement around when people see this, where they see it, what value do advertisers and sponsors attach to different things, and what's the value of live versus taped, and how do these things happen? And I think what's interesting is when we started, when we were doing this several years ago, it used to be that the sales team would sell their big packages to brands, and then they would throw in, at best, if they cared, they'd throw in Twitter, or they'd throw in some sort of social interaction. Now, the brands understand, they'll say, yeah, I bought my media time, and I want to know, what are you going to do on Twitter, and how am I going to pay this off in the days leading the days leading out, all these other things, and they're looking for a wider timeline. And so I think it's a matter of making sure that, as Jason was saying, finding value and then measuring that value. That's one thing I hear from tons of people, is we need to measure the value of all this work we do, because people are certainly buying it and they're spending a lot of money around it, but how do we build a system, sort of currency around that?
And then I think, yeah.
Yeah, there was a very interesting bit of research, which I think was Twitter Nielsen research, showing that actually if you generate buzz around a premiere of an episode, that actually translated into viewing in +7. So I think shows like Empire, as an example, have had a huge lift from +7, which obviously is very important and becoming more and more important. And Nielsen just released their total audience measurement system, where they're going to be able to measure more of that kind of everywhere distribution. So, kind of one thing, I don't think they're kind of necessarily they're interrelated, right? So
And then I think that the other really interesting conversations around TuneIn, more directly around TuneIn, and Ori, you've done some fantastic stuff with respect to sharing clips, for example, and have talked about the way that we discover content. So say a little more about what you and WhipClip have built as a vision for how people can discover content.
Yeah, for sure. Just one, if you don't mind, I just want to add one more point to interaction. So you need to define interaction when you talk about interactive TV. So there's one way of doing it. I'm interacting with the content. I'm voting. I'm changing the content for the sake of discussion. But I think that what is really happening now is interaction is different. I see something on TV, and then I'm interacting with others on other platforms. Is that interactive TV? Everybody can judge. I think Twitter is doing a great moment with Moments, and you can see. So TV is kind of an input of events, if it's synchronic or asynchronic, and then there's kind of interaction on other platforms. I think a good way to look at it is always looking at games. Okay, games. Have anyone here played Candy Crush? How many are addicted here at Candy Crush? Okay, so I'm addicted.
Nobody's admitting to it.
Okay, so I finished the game twice.
Half of them are playing right now, but
so Candy Crush or Quiz Up, for example, Quiz Up. You think you're playing against someone, but it's actually asynchronic. Okay, the guy already answered the question somewhere else, and they've been able to create kind of a feel that it's live, but it's not really live. I think a lot of those things are going to happen on TV as well. As for our vision for discovery, the way I think about it is you can have content measured in many different ways. One way of measuring content is the length of the content. Instagram just came out with an app called Boomerang, 1 second content. Actually, you guys should try it. 1 second is actually, you can create content with 1 second. Then there's Vine with 6, and there's video of 30 seconds and 2 minutes, and 22 episodic and 120 movies. What I think has changed in the last 5 to 10 years is none of us will dedicate 2 hours to watch a movie before we saw the trailer. None of us will dedicate or binge watch Narcos before we saw the trailer. So bite-sized content is really the entry point for monetizing on long-form content. And bite-sized content exists on social media. So whoever controls bite-sized content on social media actually controls monetization on long-form. That's the way we look at it. So we're trying to create an engine that allows you to create bite-sized content, be super social. Hey, this great moment on TV, share it with friends, and then redirect the traffic to everybody. 11,000 shows, who knows what to watch? If you're my friend and you tell me to watch it, and it's not just text, but it's video, there's a good chance I'll converge and watch it.
excellent. And then I think also to that point, I want to open it to Nick too on the HLN Connect. Talk a little bit about that. You're encouraging people to tweet, correct?
Yeah, I think our mantra a couple years ago, and we've refined it a little bit since, was we're not the news network anymore, you are. And it really speaks to the way we've gone with news and our content in general, in that in the old days it used to be, a stuffy old guy sat behind a desk telling you what his news agenda was, and you know, it's some guys in suits telling you what's important to you or what should be important to you. These days, it's democratized in a hugely different way for us, because instead of going that way, one way to the audience, we're listening to what the audience are already chattering about on social and building our news agendas based on what's out there. So we're using, you know, tools like CrowdTangle in the newsroom, which will sort of, you know, we can key in words and find out, you know, if there's certain subject areas that we know our audience are into, what are they chattering about right now? Oh, there's a big thing going on in Minnesota. Okay, well, let's blow that up into a big story and turn it into a national thing. So it's very much about reverse engineering. Instead of us going out and saying this should be the story and hoping that becomes viral, it's kind of seeing, okay, what's growing out there? In terms of the interaction, for us, it's more of a long-term strategy. Of course, we want to know what people's views are on particular stories. You know, Morning Express is our biggest show on HLN. You know, it's the second biggest news show in the mornings. Beats even our big sisters at CNN. And I think part of its success there is it connects very much to the community that watches it, because it encourages them to tweet in their responses and to send in photos of their, you know, whatever's related to the news that day. But equally, we're gonna sort of the long-term strategy there is to build an association with the brand and build an interaction with the brand on a long term, not just while the show is showing, but encourage you to pick up HLN on your phone, to, you know, check your HLN feed on Twitter, to check Robin's feed on Twitter, to go on Facebook and our other platforms as well, and to sort of bring all that together. And in an attempt to sort of begin to sort of monetize that in a better way for us, we're developing a loyalty program, which will in effect reward you for tweeting something, retweeting something that Robin said, or for you know, commenting on one of our Facebook stories. And while it's still in development, there's opportunities there for sponsors to come in and for us to really take that to the next level of interaction.
That helps you also to understand who your audience is.
Absolutely,
correct?
yeah. So we can reach out to them and reward them for if we're trying to find something particular, if we're trying to source, you know, particular quotes on something that's in the news. But it also tells us, you know, demographically who they are, what their interests are, where they are, who's interested in what story in what part of the country, and yeah, so on and so forth.
So I'll stay on this for a bit, and I'll note too that another thing I found is YouTube. More TV networks, more TV shows are trying to get their clips out also to YouTube. I think kind of proving the point, the more you can get the clips out there, the more people are going to interact with it, which I think is an important point. And this one I'll pass to you first, Andrew, and then Josh, you can comment on it. So this summer, Twitter did a fantastic deal with NFL. Actually, it's the third year, really, of the Twitter Amplified deal. And talk a little bit about it. And specifically, I noted in the press the idea that part of the deal was 3 times more in-progress content. Can you say a little more about that?
Yeah, so, I mean, Josh, I think, could probably speak also very well to this. But I think, in general, I mean, obviously the NFL is an incredible partner. The consumption is really, you know, really strong. And just from anecdotally, I mean, everybody watches, you know, without saying specific numbers, but everybody wants to see the replay. Everyone wants to see the highlight. And they want, you know, there's this group fandom. You're not just, on Twitter being an open platform, it's not just your friends that you're connected with. You're connected with people that share interest. So a lot of the people that I follow on the weekend happen to be fans of the same teams. And so you see a lot of these clips getting incredible traction to a much wider audience than just the fans. So it made a lot of sense from both sides for the NFL to have that content with us, and for us also, obviously, you know, to bring that content in a way that's regular, you know, and really high quality production. But Josh, I mean, this would be right up your alley.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. Premium content is good on any platform, and you know, we've really looked to make the deals that we do on a linear level move over to the digital side and have whatever type of content that we can get rights to push out on as many platforms as possible. And we've really worked with Andrew and his team on ways to push you know, monetization of this video content, so that our distribution there can really stand on its own and create value for the company and drive revenue. And it gives kind of, all of this content has a longer shelf life than it would if you were to just see it on TV. And there's huge benefits to pushing it out on these other platforms from a promotional standpoint, from a user experience standpoint. As a sports fan myself, if I can't be in front of a television and I want to know how the Pats did, I'm from Boston, so I just care about how the Pats did right now. But if I can get that information and I can get that video content, it makes it such a better user experience across the board. And I really feel like that the content and the ability for us to push content on these platforms makes the platforms better. And that's why we are spending now so much time with Twitter and so much time with Facebook and other platforms to, as content creators, really help push them in a direction so that we can do business with them and do business in general versus just, sharing for promotional purposes to drive TuneIn back to one screen.
So, and I think also to extend this discussion, we had an interesting discussion, and I'm going to bring Periscope and Meerkat into the fray here. And there's a couple of things to say. One of the things that I think is most important is it was the first time that I was kind of watching my feed and saw a message that basically said live now and had a link which if I clicked, I could actually see something live now. And I thought that was very interesting. And as you and I were talking, as TV everywhere, as sort of, the digital world comes together with the bundle and things like that, and we have these apps that are actually rights authenticated, that I thought, well, that's sort of interesting. And you really felt like you're doing that today.
Yeah, I mean, we have an app called Fox Sports Go, which we're now able, through authentication, you're able to watch everything that's on Fox Sports, whether it's on FBC, FS1, FS2, or even on our regional networks. So it becomes like this very useful app for people that are on the go and don't necessarily have time to sit in their living room if they want to catch a game. It also, going back to TuneIn, I think that, there is a disconnect. We have not yet connected the dots to social media promotion and TuneIn. And while I think everybody here knows that there is a correlation there, and Nielsen has claimed that there is a correlation there, there's no way to really quantify that. There's no way to make that conversion except for with technology. And with the increase of technology, like apps like Fox Sports Go and other over-the-top applications, there's going to be a way through, if we, in a similar way, if you're a retail company and you post a coupon on your tweet, people will download that coupon and they'll redeem it. That's how you draw the conversion. If you post a deep link to a broadcast that will put you right into the program, we're making a conversion right there. And so I think that through technology, as we grow, there's going to be a much closer correlation between social media promotion and TuneIn.
And
Ori, sorry. I was just going to say, Ori was just telling me beforehand about, to that point, the conversion on WhipClip, about how after a certain time limit, it can redirect that traffic. So I think, to your point, there's a lot of, that real 10-second delay or less, and then redirecting it back. I mean, you do have to think of these things as an ecosystem. So shifting a little bit away from sports for a second, but whenever we talk to our partners, you have to plan ahead for these things. So if you're shooting a scripted show and you know that the show's going to be edited and be in the can for, or going to be in post for several months, you have to think ahead and you have to think about, okay, well, I need to have something to talk about on social. I need to have clips. I need to have not just the final cut, but I need to have, things from the stars, from not necessarily the cutting room floor, but behind the scenes footage. And so as you look at these things and you look at how that drives the conversation, I agree that all of these platforms sort of, I guess my point is you do need to look ahead and you need to be planning on these things. And that's what a lot of these partners are doing. To bring it back to that, the NFL, Fox, people realize that you have to plan ahead for these things. People are going to share these clips, so you should control the narrative, and you want to be thinking of this thing, of the process kind of holistically.
And I think in general this area gets into rights, and WhipClip I think is notable, doing a fantastic job after, well, name your internet company that has, you know, maybe tried to tread lightly but hasn't done so. You think you guys have really put a forceful step forward to say the rights matter, we're going to go after them, and so talk a little bit about that, and I guess a little bit of struggle of, no, the marketing is really important here.
Well, I think our approach was, if it's not legal, it can't scale. Look at what happened with music. Napster, great product. Yeah, you know, whoever scaled was the ones that actually went with the content owners, iTunes and so forth. And a little bit of what Andrew said. So sharing TV, think a little bit about how TV is shared today. Here's how it's shared. I have a 10-year-old, and if he sees an amazing move on the NFL, here's what he does. He tries to capture it on TV and then share it with his friends. That's not legal. Although you guys should benefit from that. So how do we turn that into something that's legal and can be controlled by the NFL? So that's kind of a little bit of the products we're trying to introduce. Say, hey, you know what? Here's an app that can allow you to share live TV in real time. The NFL can decide, or Fox can decide how long it can be. And by the way, at the end of this clip, we're going to redirect you live to where the show is. So it's all about finding those nuggets of where people actually consume TV and discover TV. So that's one thing when they're sharing. I think another thing is on publishers. So a lot of people go to people.com and read about Dancing with the Stars. Video should be there, and it should be redirected. A lot of people have heard of something. Something's happening with probably Donald Trump today. I don't know. So can I have a search engine in which I can just go and say, tell me what happened with Donald Trump, show me all the moments of TV. So I think there's tons of ways of discovering stuff and then redirecting people to TV. So that's really what we're focused on.
So we have about 5 minutes left, and I'm going to get the audience involved in a couple of quick ways. First of all, if you have questions, please raise your hand. And then secondly, a quick show of hands. How many people in this room have ever picked up a camera? I assume you all have DVRs, but that could be a false assumption. Picked up your smartphone and tried to video something off of a TV? Show of hands. And then second question, how many of you in the audience record live sports on a DVR and watch it that way? Cool. All right, and then I just want to kind of put that out there as sort of interesting audience engagement, but then also think about maybe the questions that you have. And then I think, was there another point that we wanted? So one thing, though, I do want to touch on is the presidential, speaking of Donald Trump, right? That debate in which the ratings were 24 million viewers, right? And by the way, a side note, that's an average minute viewership, right? On average, every minute, 24 million viewers, not 3 seconds, right? That you might say is a Facebook.
People love comedy.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes. And so, Jason, can you take us through that case study? It was fantastic.
Yeah, we did something with, I mean, it's partly to Andrew's point about the importance of thinking about how you prepare for some of those things. And this year, Fox, when they ran the first GOP presidential debate, didn't just want it to be a traditional hosted question and answer session with the candidates. They wanted something from the home audience. So about a month before they started promoting the ability to upload a question directly, a video question, a text question directly from the home audience, they could pick out different topics that they could ask questions about, and some of those questions were then featured in the show. So it was they were all obviously pre-prepared, from the audience. It wasn't live like that. But it kind of was a way of integrating, socially created content into the show, and I think, video is going to be more and more important as a user-generated content medium, of course. And then they also had live trending information and things like that. So you'll see, I think, in more and more in the news cycle in the next year, the impact of people like Twitter and Facebook in terms of how those news networks are using their social partners to really power those. I know Twitter just did, I think, the CBS debate as well. So, kind of more and more of that, and obviously, an influence on ratings and that kind of functions.
Very good. And then I can't forget to touch on the power of the influencer network, right? And so empowering the stars. I can't remember, I think multiple folks, as we had conversations previously. I don't know if one of you wants to take that on how important
I think that's more and more important. I mean, I think to the point that Andrew's making, we're talking about live TV, but tons of the dramas, I think, scripted have had huge success. I mean, the Shonda Rhimes dramas, clearly like there's kind of Twitter parties around them, getting the talent involved in live tweeting, making it kind of a reason to tune in. You know, just using, if you think about a lot of shows launching, you know, you've got Empire launching, you know, you've got Snoop Dogg as a guest star in one of the first episodes. He's got 35 million fans on Facebook. He's got 20 million on Twitter or whatever. Clearly using that and sharing, giving him clips that he can share that drives promotion of the show is, you know, a natural fit. And, you know, so talent activation is becoming more and more important. Periscoping from the changing room, like I said, you know, that sort of stuff, exclusive content, access to talent is a really, really big thing about driving tune-in and driving awareness of content.
There's also a huge new world of quote emerging talent, as they say. So maybe they're not on broadcast, but they have, you know, incredible followings across all the platforms. And I've been at award shows where a young star tweeted that he was at this award show that night, and literally, I mean, every other major superstar musician was there, and the only problem we had is when this person tweeted, thousands of, you know, young screaming fans showed up at the hotel where we were shooting in Vegas, and we had to like triple security. And it's amazing how powerful these audiences are, how engaged the fans are, you know, the way they consume content and the way that they engage with this new world of quote emerging talent is something to be reckoned with, and it's something that we have much smarter people at the company working on than myself, and it's hard to digest how powerful it is and think about that as a part of the calculus when we look forward as how television and media and everything is being impacted and changing. When you look at these younger stars and people making tens of millions of dollars on their, you know, YouTube channels and the, you know, Twitter, we just opened up a partnership with our video experience with a lot of these people, and, you know, bought a company called Niche that, you know, manages a lot of these people. It's a whole new world that I think will impact a lot of the different things that happen in television moving forward.
That's entirely our strategy in original programming, is to partner with influencers to bring their projects to air. So whether we're doing a project we did a project this year with Kim Kardashian, who was huge on social media, and that was the reason that we partnered with her. And we did a project that's launching in the new year, which is, you know, 65 episodes of a new show produced by Ellen DeGeneres. But those people are just as influential as the iJustines and the, you know, Tyler Oakleys and these young social media stars out there who are the future of programming.
Well, I feel bad our time is out. Do we have time for one question? One question? Sorry, say it a bit louder. The question is, what is something different that you're doing from anybody else, meaning any competitor in their space? So what's Fox Sports doing that's different than?
Yeah,
what?
I mean, I don't know if I'd say that what we're doing is different, but I think that what we've really tried to do is experiment and lean in on some of these emerging platforms and really trying to draw what kind of value can we get out of them from a distribution standpoint, from a monetization standpoint, from a community standpoint. And you know, there are a lot of emerging social media platforms like Snapchat, and, you know, Instagram has grown a ton. Vine is growing. There are a lot of places to be, and I think that, you know, with the limited resources that my team has, I think we're focused on measuring the value and the potential return that we can get from investing in those spaces. So,
Right, so we'll do real quick down the line.
Okay.
Ori, what's
so
different?
we allow you to share clips legally. We have better technology, and we're the coolest company in LA.
Sweet. Andrew.
Twitter is live in real time, so and it's public, and that's always the biggest thing, because, you know, we have however 300 million users, but we reach over 1 billion people a day because the tweets are public and they can be shared anywhere. You see them on, you know, on the New York Times, you'll see them on ESPN, you'll see them everywhere. We see them on Fox, you'll see them across the board, and they reach huge amounts of users. So we're always thinking about live, we're always thinking about public, we're built for that experience. So that's really the differentiator for us.
Nick?
Just what I said at the beginning, just about being social first in everything that we do, building our whole news agenda based on what's trending on social, and building our original content as we move away from depending on the news cycle into doing new original series. Also building that based on what's trending on social.
And Jason?
I'll tell you what none of our competitors are doing. They're not growing mustaches for Movember, which you should all be doing to support.
And what I'm doing, trying to measure cross-platform social TV. So nobody else is doing cross-platform metrics on social TV. So that's it. Thank you guys for paying attention.
Thank you.